Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again today. This is Peter and Thailand-bound. Now, if you haven't been to this channel before, if you haven't been to my channel before, I talk about all things Thailand. But today I'm going to be making a video with a guest. It's something that's been a long time coming. As you guys probably know, I'm actually married myself. I have a Korean wife. And one of the questions I get asked very, very often is single guys want tips on these dating sites when they go to Thailand or anywhere else, actually. You've got Thai-Tinder, Thai-Cupid, all those sort of things. Well, being married, I've never had an opportunity to use these dating sites. So that's why I haven't made a video. But I'm really happy today. I've got Michael back again. Do you remember Michael? He's very knowledgeable on the dating apps. He'll tell you why. And what I'm going to do towards the end, I've prepared some questions that I think single guys who are looking to use dating apps when they go to Thailand or China or wherever it is, I've just tried to guess what sort of question you guys would ask. So I can ask Michael these questions. He can respond. Now, what we're hoping to do this as a two-part video. What we'd like to do is today just discuss the dating apps, the various dating apps, how you can, how to get the best out of them, really. But what we'd like to do on the next video, we'd like to answer your questions. So if you watch this video and you've got some genuine questions about any dating apps and you'd like to ask Michael or myself, well, I don't really know, it'd be Michael. What we'll do, Michael and I will make a follow-up video. It won't be live, it'll be recorded like this, but we'll make a follow-up video and we'll read a list of questions that you guys have sent in, and hopefully Michael will have the answers to your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Michael in now. He's in Washington. He's 5 hours behind me, I believe.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Hello, how are you
Nice
doing?
to have you back on the channel again. It seems you're becoming a regular now. Okay, so Michael, you're actually single, aren't you? And you travel to Thailand very often. In fact, you're going to Thailand. Is it on the 3rd you said you're going?
Yes, Wednesday.
So that's this coming Wednesday you're going off to Thailand.
That's correct.
And you know how these dating apps work. You know how to screen certain people out of them. What you were telling me last week. So the first question everybody will really ask is, apart from being single, how do you know so much about how these dating apps work?
Well, this goes back to our first interview when we talked about the marriage fraud many years ago, when I became involved in the political and lobbying to get some of the laws changed here in the U.S. that have to do with marriage fraud. A lot of the legislation affects dating sites because the primary way that men meet their foreign wives is on online dating sites. So sure. A lot of this legislation was aimed at restricting and controlling men's use of dating apps. And so I got to know a lot of the people that own the companies, whether they were small companies or whether they were giant companies. And I got invited to big trade expositions with huge multi-million-dollar companies, and I talked to the marketing people and the people that wrote the matching algorithms, and I even traveled in Ukraine with one of the companies that did tours there. And so in about a year, I learned from the business side, from the inside, how these companies work, how they make money. Okay, so anyway, I went to trade expositions. I actually traveled on some of these tours in Ukraine with one of the companies, and I learned a lot about the business model, from the big multi-million-dollar companies down to the smaller companies. And so I understood, not like as a customer using the sites, but as a person involved in lobbying and political stuff, of how these companies work. And then the years since, I've used some of the sites myself with great success, and learned through experience of what I knew and common sense and researched, and had very good success. So I know a lot about it from both the business side and from the personal use side.
But you've used it for yourself as well, haven't you?
Yes.
I don't think it's any big secret. When you've gone to Thailand, you've met nice girls on these dating apps, haven't you? In the past, you were saying.
Yeah. Only people with college educations, not just nice, but educated people mostly. That many have their own businesses. I don't mean a business like a food cart or something. I mean like a real business, and very successful people.
Yeah. And what about the language? Because a lot of guys who watch this, they'll be going out to Thailand, they don't speak Thai, And a lot of guys will think, well, I don't speak Thai, so the only girls I can kind of meet are bar girls who are fluent in English. So how do you get on with these girls? Do you find that the girls that you meet are mainly educated, they speak good English? Or
Yes, and anyone that has their own business likely speaks English. English is the international language of business. But I had met a few people that didn't speak in English, and with the incredible technology of Google Translate, I actually did okay, and so it's not impossible even with no English.
It's very difficult to have a conversation on Google Translate, though, isn't it? It's okay. When I've been in Thailand, I've been trying to communicate with somebody. If you're only using this back and forth, it's hard to keep the interest going in a conversation. So I'm guessing if I was single and I went on one of these dating apps, I think that I'd tend to kind of filter out people who had a fairly decent level of English.
Yeah. No, I don't mean text. I mean voice. I mean, so you're speaking to the person, and it's speaking in Thai, and they're speaking to you, and it's speaking in English. So you can have a conversation like you and I are. It's just not your exact voice, but it's quite good.
These the questions. I hope you don't mind. I prepared a few questions for you, Michael, because I'm going to ask you from a layman's point of view. So somebody, he's a 2-week millionaire. He's gone to Thailand for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, somewhere like Bangkok or Pattaya for him. And if I can ask you some of these questions, maybe you can just tell us what you know from experience, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my first question to you, on behalf of any single man going out to the Far East, Southeast Asia, is there any apps that you would totally avoid, and why?
I would avoid any of the very small ones. I would avoid any of the ones that are made specifically for Asians. You need to be on an app where the women that are on the app are looking for Western men, not an inter-Asian dating site.
So you're saying not to go onto an Asian one because they're looking for Asian men, and if you go on there and put yourself out there as a Western guy, you're not going to stand so much chance. Is that what you're saying?
It's not even a matter of chance. It's just the culture, and you don't know. There's already, when you're getting into the smaller dating sites that aren't the big giant ones like Tinder and Match.com, you can get into some pretty sketchy business practices. And when you drop it down even lower to like regional ones that are Chinese or whatever, Thai, you don't really know what you're dealing with. It's just not worth the time. There's much bigger ones out there than it's just not worth the time.
Okay. So what are the pitfalls of, I mean, like you've just mentioned, you've just touched that now, you've got big companies and you've got smaller companies. So in your opinion, what are the pitfalls of the larger companies and the pitfalls of using a smaller company?
Well, let's start with the smaller companies first. So I can't speak specifically to the business practices of each company because I haven't been on the inside of each company, but I've been on the inside of the industry and seen the kind of things. And some of the small companies, they actually are like in a big company. If there's a scam or something that's not true, it's the customer that's doing it. It's the male or female that's on the site looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend. They're the ones that might be doing something unethical. Tinder is not, as a corporation, as a huge part of a giant corporation, they're not getting involved in the communications between the people. In the smaller companies, they actually, some of them have people write letters, answer letters. Some of the profiles are fake. Some of them are 20 years old. I'm not saying they're all like that, but you have to understand that, it's possible. So you have to pay attention.
So what you're basically saying is, if somebody's going to use a dating app, it's better to go for a large kind of international company rather than a local regional dating site.
But there really isn't any. There's not too many large international ones. So I wouldn't say not to use one of the ones that's not a giant one like Tinder, but you just have to pay attention, and you have to be suspicious on anything that requires you to pay to communicate is a big red flag to me. If you have to pay money, like they want, put your credit card in, you can do a video chat for $1 a minute or pay this to write a letter. You know, those companies make money by people communicating. And so if they meet, they don't make any money. So it's an endless, you know, treadmill to keep people just chatting, and you don't even know if the people are real. The people are often employees. They could be married, they have fiancés, they have no interest. They come to work every day and they sit in like a telemarketer office and they're answering men's letters and even doing video chats.
Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit from a user's point of view, as opposed to what the companies are doing behind the scenes. So you'll get, I mean, I've spoken to different guys with different things they want out of a dating site. Now, some guys will go to Thailand and they're only looking for holiday girlfriends, and they're looking for those types of girls, if you know what I mean. And then you'll get the other guys who go there, they're looking for nice girls, you know, normal working. When I say working, I mean they've got their own companies and things like that. So a few other questions here. I mean, is there any way, you know, I've got to say this in a roundabout way, but when you go to Thailand or anywhere in Southeast Asia, a lot of the working girls, they put themselves on their profiles up on dating sites, and they pretend to be just normal girls. Guy comes on holiday, finds the girl of his dreams, but he doesn't know that she's a working girl. Is there any way to kind of weed out, you know, the working girls and just have the nicer ones, you know, just communicate with the normal, decent women?
Well, my experience, I'm very picky, so visually it's often easy. I don't swipe on like, let's use Tinder as an example. So I don't swipe on people that look a certain way, so I might be avoiding a lot of these people. But what I see is the working girls, they'll put in the profile freelancer, so you know what they are. It's not a question. They're not trying to trick anyone because they don't want to go through a dating process. They want to have a quick result and make some money. But you know, you have to generalize, at least to start. You can always make an exception, but I notice in every video, people always write comments about, well, I know someone, you know, that didn't fit this rule. Well, yeah, we all know people that live to be 90 years old, smoke cigarettes every day too. But you have to look at a generalization. And generally, when you look at women that have, you know, a bunch of piercings or tattoos, maybe it's not 100%, but it's overwhelmingly likely that they're probably not wife material or serious girlfriend material. So you just have to use common sense. Now, if you see someone and they have that and you're incredibly attracted to them, you could start a conversation and explore it and see if they're maybe the 1% that's the exception. But generally speaking, they're not going to be, and you have to just go with that.
So if somebody went to Thailand for the first time and started using one of these dating apps, like I'm saying Thailand all the time, it could be anywhere, especially in Southeast Asia, but as a channel is called Thailand-bound, I'll mention Thailand. So if somebody goes to Thailand for a first time and he's a novice, you've got experience because you've been doing it for a while. I would know because I've been, you know, visiting Thailand for many, many years. So you can tell, like you say, if a girl's covered in tattoos or she has a lot of piercings or she smokes out in public, you know, because normal Thai girls, they don't do that. Maybe the younger ones, but the culture side of things, it's just not done. They don't kiss in public. They don't, all them sort of telltale signs. But if you get a guy who's going out there for the first time and he thinks, well, I'll use a dating app and I'll see if I can find a nice girl on a dating app. I mean, have you got any kind of tips for him? Or
yeah, the first tip I have is you can't do that when you go to Thailand. You got to do that 2 months before you go to Thailand, or at least a month.
That was one of my questions I was coming
I don't ever use apps when I'm in Thailand. First of all, it's rude because you're probably with someone else and you don't want to have your phone getting Tinder beep beep notifications. Also, it's very unlikely that you're going to meet anyone serious that spontaneously. The most success, I mentioned this in the last video we did, but line is essential. The most important thing is after meeting on Tinder is to quickly get off of Tinder and move to Line. And if someone won't do that and they insist on staying on Tinder, then probably either they're not serious, meaning, because a lot of women will get on dating sites just for attention. It's not even like a freelance or anything. They just like the attention. They have a boring job, and at lunchtime they can flip through, but it's never going to go anywhere. If someone is serious about interest in meeting a person, they will either add you online or give you their line address, and then you can really run with it. Because then when you're online, you can share pictures, you can video talk, but you can't do this the week before or when you arrive. You have to start at least a month, I would say 2 months, but at least 1 month before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that makes perfect sense, because you can also have a practice, as it were. You know, what you were talking about earlier, you'll find a certain category of girls that kind of talk to you in one way. And I mean, normal Thai girls are kind of really shy anyway, aren't they? Whereas the bar girls are very upfront. So that, you know, that you'd start to learn when you start speaking to a few people.
That's where line is. That is where line is so incredible, because line is different than every other messaging app, because of the incredible variety of stickers that express emotions and how intuitive it is. So people that would be very difficult because of maybe, I don't know if it's shy so much as just a conservative culture, it's easy to bring them out of their shell with line very quickly. And they're not, and they're really not that conservative. It's just a cultural thing. And if you can break that shell, they're quite different.
Sure. And just for anybody who doesn't know what line is, because it's obvious for us, but I didn't know what line was until somebody pointed it out to me in Thailand, because everybody uses WhatsApp here in the UK, and WhatsApp is very popular. Line, hardly anybody uses it here. So Line is an app like WhatsApp, and it's what the Thais use. All the Thai people have Line on their phone. So it is a good like Michael said, it is a very good communicating app. Okay, here's a bit of a humorous one, but there is a serious side to it, Michael. I've heard of guys who have arranged to meet girls on various dating apps, and a ladyboy's turned up. I mean, how can you weed them out for somebody who's not experienced?
Yeah, I've never had that problem, and I hear these stories all the time, and I'm personally sort of suspicious. I don't know if alcohol's involved, or whether people just have very low standards or poor eyesight. I'm not sure, but
it does happen.
This goes into the whole political current state of affairs that we are in Western countries now, with the whole woke transgender thing. This is my opinion. My opinion is that men are men and women are women, and you can have reassignment surgery and cosmetic surgery, and you can change things, but you can't change chromosomes, and you can't change brain structure. And I have never spoken to a ladyboy for longer than 15 to 20 seconds, no matter what they look like, and not understood that that was not a woman, ever.
But that's on a face-to-face meeting, isn't it?
Face-to-face meeting. But you can all. But online, or even on Tinder, it might take a little bit longer, but it wouldn't take longer than 3 or 4 messages. And usually they're very aggressive and assertive. So you immediately can sort of tell right from the first message. You see this picture, what looks like a very attractive young woman, and then you see the message, and you're like, the message doesn't go with the picture.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, it does happen because
on Tinder, I mean, I don't know what the rules are, but on Tinder, like with the freelancers, I found that practically all the ladyboys, they identify themselves in the profile, because it's not good for them for a surprise. I mean, it could turn out very bad. So they usually put it in the profile. But I think a lot of guys just look at pictures and they just swipe. You can slow down, read the profile. Read the detail, and sometimes it's not so absolutely clear. They don't maybe don't say I am a ladyboy. Maybe they say I'm not a real woman, or something that's down in the profile or something. But read it, and the information is usually there.
The reason I ask you is because I do remember years ago I had a friend who was using, I can't remember which dating site, but he used a dating site. And he had a few conversations online with what he thought was a woman. And you know, in Thailand, they look very, very feminine. They actually look like real women. And he arranged a meeting. But as soon as he, whatever you want to say, turned up for the meeting, for the restaurant, whatever it was, he knew immediately, because he was face to face, and you know, he couldn't tell online. But this ladyboy hadn't mentioned to him that he was a ladyboy. So this is why I was kind of asking the questions. As somebody who hasn't got any experience, and they go out there and they're taking mental notes and thinking about what they should look out for, the bit about the aggressive text, I understand that's quite logical, because they can be very aggressive. Very aggressive in the way they do things.
The sense of humor, the topic of conversation. I mean, I think a lot of men, they're looking at the picture, and so they're not even interpreting the words that much. But I mean, I'd have to see the text, the conversation between the gentleman you're talking about. But I'd be surprised if there wasn't a clue there, but he just wasn't blind to it and didn't notice it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's two questions here I'm going to wrap into one photograph. So talking of profiles, I mean, ideally, this might sound like a silly question. Most people think they know, but in your experience, what would be the ideal profile if a guy puts himself on something like Tinder for a first time? What sort of photographs do you think he should use, and what should he write in his profile? I mean, he's not going to, give his right leg measurements, is he? I mean, he wants to sound interested. Any suggestions?
Okay, well, let's start with the photos, because guys really screw up on photos a lot. So you have to have good photos. They have to be relatively recent photos, certainly not more than 1 year old. Everybody has photos of themselves that are good and bad. And if you don't have any good ones, have a friend take some pictures. There can't be any other people in the photos. Do not put photos on there with other people. We are male friends, and certainly not your other ex-girlfriends or wives or anyone else. So I also like to put some lifestyle pictures in that are real. To me, putting in fake stuff never gets anywhere, because if you're looking for something serious, if you're looking for something quick, you don't need those photos. If you're looking for something serious, you're just going to come off as disingenuous when they figure out that the photos aren't really accurate. So if you don't have photos that are complementary to the best that you are at whatever point in life you are, get some, but don't use fake ones, and don't use really old ones. It'll come back to bite you.
That makes sense.
In terms of the text, the things that women are looking for are universal. There might be a little bit stronger push in a country like Thailand because of the economic situation, but these same things are true in the UK or the US or anything. Women want men that have jobs. Women want men that are responsible, dependable, reliable. They want security. They want someone they can lean on. They don't want to they don't want to date their son. They don't want to be supporting them. They don't want a guy that is, unstable. So when you're writing your profile,
that's true anywhere, isn't it?
Anywhere. It's universal male tendencies. Even if a woman doesn't need to be, I don't care. They do these interesting studies in the US. They look at women that make $200,000 a year, $1 million a year. They still want men that make more than them. Not because they need their money. It's just biology. Women want to look up, and they want to have someone that they believe is like at the step above them, and a nurturer and a provider, even if they don't actually need it. So you want to write a profile where you're confident. You don't want to certainly come across as bitter. You want to come across as responsible and mature, and not like a party. You don't want to put pictures in there like where you're partying on some rooftop bar or something. I mean, you want to put pictures that maybe show you in a business sense and in a family or recreational sense, but that are serious pictures, not where you're drunk or partying with a bunch of friends. Those kind of traditional male things, you just literally could go to Google and research in 5 minutes. Those are a home run in any country. Women are looking for those same things. And don't skimp on it too. Write something decent in there, and you don't have to. I would suggest not writing the name of the company you're working at, but certainly write the profession and the type of job that you do.
What do you think? There's any age limits? Guys. I'm not talking about guys, old guys who go out looking for young girls. That's just stupid, isn't it? But what would you say age-wise? So I'm not single, I'm married, but say I was single, I'm 62 in April. What would be an ideal age I should be looking for? If I wanted somebody a little bit younger than myself, but not too young, so I could communicate on the same level with them. What would you recommend on age differences? Is there any maximums or minimums? I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, again, there's always exceptions to every rule. Generally, I don't know where it came from. It was like folklore. It's half your age plus 7 is what they say in the U.S. I've heard some people say half plus 10. Anyhow, that would get you in the range of what the minimum would be. But I wouldn't necessarily it depends what you're looking for. If you're not looking for a bar girl, but you're also not looking for a wife, but you're looking for a long-term girlfriend to travel and have fun, I don't think there practically is any age difference for age restriction for that kind of relationship, as long as you are realistic about what that kind of relationship is.
Well, incredibly, we've been going for 27, just under 27 minutes. So before we wrap this up, I'll just ask you, put yourself in the place, Michael, of a guy who's never been to Thailand before. He's going out there and he's going to use, let's say he's been using the dating app before he goes out there, like you suggest, a couple of months before he goes out there. Have you got any top tips for him so he doesn't fall out, doesn't trip up, but he's successful on these dating apps?
Yeah, I would use at least 2, maybe try like Tinder and Cupid. Follow all the instructions I said for the photos and the profile. And then the most important thing though is to communicate, because most guys, they just don't communicate. If there's a lot more guys on every dating site than girls are, and females are used to being pursued generally. So when you get any kind of interest back from a woman, you're already mathematically at a huge disadvantage because there's so many more men than women. So when someone expresses interest back, you have to reply to them. You can't. I'm working with a friend now that's going to Thailand, and like a girl sends him a message, and like he waits 3 days to reply, and then she's like doesn't reply because she's like, screw it. Is that not, you better reply right away, and don't write, hey babe or something. Write something in there. How is your week? How is it going? I saw there's a lot of flooding, and talk like you actually know something about their country. Do not talk about anything sexual or inappropriate. Talk about lots of things like a human being would. It works.
I think the best thing, not that I'm ever going to be using any dating apps, but the thing that I've picked up, the best tip I think is, and I totally agree with you, is to move away from that app. Yes. As soon as you get talking to somebody, so move away from that app and move on to Line, because like you said, Line is a very, very good app. You can share photos, videos, and it's a free service that you can use. And
the most important part of Line is the stickers, the emoticons, because you can share photos and stuff on WhatsApp, but if you try to use WhatsApp like you use Line, you would have 10% the success of Line. Understanding, because you can communicate so well through Line using the Line stickers. I mean, you really get. I have just had incredible success with that.
Yeah, I know the stickers you're talking about. Sometimes, although I'm not on dating sites, a friend will say something that doesn't really need a response, but I'll send him a thumbs up, or I'll send him a big smiley face or something. It's just so much easier than writing a reply, isn't it?
Yeah, and every emotion's covered.
Yeah. Okay, Michael. So we're just coming up to the half an hour now. So firstly, I want to thank you for joining me once again. I've learned a couple of things. I hope others have. So what I'd like to say before we leave this, before we go, as I said at the beginning of the video, guys, if you've got any questions, what we're talking about here or what Michael's explaining, it's not just for Thailand or Southeast Asia. It's the same in the Ukraine or Romania or Russia. Michael will tell you it's the same wherever you are. You're just using different sites. But we'd really like to get some questions from you guys. If you leave questions in the comments, or you can write to me and I'll pass them on to Michael. There's my email address there. You can write to me if you want to keep it you don't have to tell us what your name is, how old you are, anything like that. Just send us the questions. Now, if we make this video, it's depending on if I get questions. If we get questions from you, if we get enough questions, then a minimum of 10, I would say, then we can make a follow-up video on this, and then hopefully we'll answer some more questions, and hopefully you'll find that one interesting as well. But I do hope you've learned some good tips today from Michael. And again, Michael, thank you for coming on to the channel. As I said at the beginning, you're starting to become a regular now. Let's hope we get those questions so people can, we can bring you back and you can answer those questions. Is there anything you'd like to add to finish with today, Michael, on these dating apps?
Just that the 30 minutes doesn't even begin to cover. So I hope you get a lot of questions, because I could see you could do 10 more of these videos and still scratch the surface.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm not ready to end this video now. It's just I keep my eye on the time, because the problem is on YouTube, as you know, if it's a 1 hour video or 2 hour video, people tend to kind of shy away from the longer videos. So yeah, we'll possibly do some more on this subject. But for now, Michael, thank you very much once again. It's been a pleasure having you as my guest. And I'm sure we'll see you in the future.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye.
Right, that's it, guys, for today. Just it wasn't a planned video. I do sincerely hope that we can bring Michael back into the make another video with Michael, because he's got some interesting things to say. And once again, please send me your questions and I'll pass them on to Michael. We'll bring him on. We'll do another video. Okay.